Live. Hey, it's Cate with the Thrive with Cate podcast, and I'm here with Sara Sherman, who I met in Alex Hormozi's mastermind group called Vantage, which is on the school platform, SKOOL, which I switched to in 2022 through being in another mastermind group with Sam Ovens, who's the founder of School. And now Alex Hormozi is the chief, and the Hormozis with acquisition.com are the chief investors in School. So my little world just kept circling around itself. And part of the reason I joined masterminds is to learn from the best. And the other part is to meet the other people that want to learn from the same people that I do, which is how I ran into Sara. And Sara is rebuilding her company with an AI operating system at the same time I was. And I caught quite a bit of flack. It seems like from being someone who, I used to work in climate change and global warming politics and policy, and then went hardcore into the holistic healing sciences and AI right now. There's a lot of AI shaming in the more woke communities. And my perspective on it is if we don't know how to use technology, it's really easy to fall behind and actually not understand what's going on. So I always like to know things from the inside out rather than from what a media spin is putting on from the outside in. So I wanted to have this conversation with Sara because we seem to be in a similar process and seem to have enough sort of social concern in our natural human operating systems. And how are people that are more socially aware and socially conscious? How are we navigating building AI operating systems? So without further ado, Sara, will you tell everyone just about your past and what you're up to next so we get a sense of who you are?
Well, thanks, Cate, for having me and for opening the door for the introduction. I'm Sara, and I hail from Minnesota. I currently own and operate a therapeutic farm with my husband, Matt. And our work centered around, I went to a school called Prescott College in Arizona, a very non-traditional college, very climate oriented. It was predominantly an outdoor education school. And I went for counseling psychology and equine experiential learning. And so the equine piece is what really drove me forward into the world of helping people and being with animals, because I do really love them. And that progression moved me forward. I think the most noteworthy piece to mention is in 2017, I worked with an organization called Natural Lifemanship and started to understand the neurobiology of what I was doing, the work we were doing with horses and people, which was really about connection. And so then I understood why everything we were doing was working from that neurobiological lens. And so that kind of redirected things into this, because once I understood why it worked, I could be intentional about how to use it, which I think is really poignant to the conversation we're having today, now that I say that out loud. And so then I could I could create curriculum. I could create really intentional processes for people to have. And I think as we progressed, our company started to grow. It's very hard, in the equine world and the coaching world, we're coaches, we're not therapists. And so we're working with horses, we're really successful, we're coaches, we're not licensed. There was a lot of skepticism about how we worked and why we were being so successful without that licensure. So there was a lot of scrutiny we had to face, which also required me to be really clear about what we were doing and why we were doing it, and to be really confident in what we were putting out there. And right before COVID hit, we'd started to focusing a lot on working. We were working with children, was a lot of the work that we're doing. I've worked with executives. I've done one-on-one coaching. My personal coaching, I think, is a lot more broad than what Dandelion represents right now, which is this parent-focused, relationship-driven work to address behaviors that children have, some of the most challenging behaviors. And that's what we've been doing. So for the last 5 years, we got into the Medicaid game in Minnesota. And if you've paid any attention to the news, the Medicaid game in the last several months in Minnesota has been a nightmare.
Turmoil.
Turmoil is an understatement. We were in Medicaid for 5 years. We grew 540%. revenue in year one was a little over 200,000. Revenue in 2025 was 1.3 million. And then on May 18th, it all ended. May 18th this year. Went from a team of about 14 down to myself and my husband and a couple part-time people. 21 families, shut the door on them overnight, not because we wanted to do that, but because of the legal implications. And we did not commit fraud. I want to be really clear to the world out there. What we were doing was operating in a system that kept changing the rules. And anybody that owns a business or makes plans knows that when your entire operating system depends on something you can't manage or control in any way, it is dangerous and pretty terrifying, I will be honest. So,
yeah, how do
we
you
really
build
tried.
when the rules change? Like it's yeah.
And
It's
overnight.
to operate a business in a more socialist economy. That was my background before climate change.
Mm.
It was like joint ventures in China, like it was crazy. And it's like, yeah, if they change the rules overnight and you've just developed all this, on the ground
Yeah.
factory with your intellectual property, like that is not an incentive for future investors. So
No.
this is part of it. And we see this a lot in Wellness Pro Academy with Wellness Pros who are like, I want to just offer wellness within these bigger companies. And it's like, well, these bigger companies haven't like sometimes the opposite problem of they have so much structure in place that like it's just hard to make something happen in real time for someone with a more entrepreneurial spirit. So with you're saying with government contracts, particularly this is state the rules.
Federal.
State and federal, they change the rules. Now all of your operating systems basically like defunct.
Yeah. And like just one small example is our work. It was really grounded in group work. So community and group. Community is the intervention, the neurobiology behind that. And they told us we couldn't do groups anymore. And I mean, that is every aspect of what we had to offer changed.
Yeah.
And how we staffed, because when you staff for a group model, you staff at a lower, it's a lower level, and not a lower like you don't need, you don't need as many staff when you're operating in a group space. And so all of a sudden now we've got the same amount of clients and not nearly enough staff.
Right. To work on. Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous. I mean, but the other thing, like we discovered this quite early in my first brand, Yogahealers, is like, if you're working with everyone one-on-one, people don't get the kind of results that they get when you have a group or a movement moving in the same direction where people can leverage off each other's momentum, each other's learning, being behind and then being ahead and coaching someone who's behind. Like the whole group starts to function like a pack and a functional organism or a herd, given that you're with horses. Right. And there's a huge functionality to that group intelligence, to collaborative intelligence. And that and my organization pushed us to really learn a lot more about the structures around collaborative intelligence. But if you're working one-on-one, then all those structures, which I'm sure you guys are doing too, those structures then go out the window and you don't get the same kind of results. Okay. So fast forward to now. So you've got naturallifemanship.com and you've got the Dandelion. So dandelion-family.com. And then with rebuilding, that post that I saw that you posted in Vantage, is like you're rebuilding an AI operating system. So what's the next business model?
Well, that opens the door to another conversation. The next business model, fee for service is the business model. And, the other side to this is I built that business by like holding onto the tailcoats of a rocket. It moved so fast and I could not build the scaffolding or the infrastructure it needed to be successful. And I really believe that in this last year of business with that on that side of things, I was starting to see it and starting to get a hold of it. And it was this constant, systemic pressure that kept causing me to have to pull away from that piece. If we'd have stabilized from that perspective, I can't even imagine what was possible. But I didn't get there, but I didn't get to the place that I could really build that out in the way that I needed to. And so I feel like I'm starting from ground zero in so many aspects. We never had to do any marketing or advertising, none. It was, I was pretty much silent for 5 years because, it was capacity on our end that was the constraint, not demand at all. And so, my business that I'm building is is it's brand new, essentially, how it operates. I mean, the work that we do is the
And
same.
will it be group now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we have a virtual, I'm learning from those around me. I'm focusing on one offer right now to really, because we're really cash constrained, huge. And
Yeah.
so what is the thing that I can sell the fastest? And still provide really good quality service. And so it's this virtual offering. And there's many offers behind that, but the virtual piece is the springboard to allow us to build internally to be able to then meet the needs of those bigger offers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a virtual offer. Yeah. Group model, virtual coaching.
Okay. And what's the core problem you're solving?
Challenged parents who are working, or parents who have children with complex behaviors who don't want to be experts. They just want to feel like they're good parents.
Okay. And then where do you get them to? Like, what's their before and after?
The before is constant chaos, shame, isolation, self-doubt, constant rupture in relationship. And that where we move towards is belonging, a new set of expectations, a different rule book that we design ourselves, not use the one we were handed generationally, culturally, what have you. And feeling, it's not about necessarily behavior change. It's about being more accepting of what is, because that does actually create the change in behavior. And so that's the place and feeling belonging is huge. It's a huge piece.
And how much are you training with horses at all now, or is it all coaching?
The virtual piece does not. Now I'll bring video pieces into it that we'll use that come from the horses. So I can bring that in virtually, but the virtual piece right now has no equine component.
Okay. And
so the other offerings
you had to like completely redo what you're doing and how you're doing it and who you're selling to.
Correct. 100%.
Okay. And then what strengths to leverage or strengths to develop did you have to kind of figure out in order to do this?
My undying commitment to not giving up. I think
I hear you there.
Maybe that might be it. And we could call that an asset, or we could call it a curse. I don't know which one it is.
We'll call it an asset. We'll go with grit. We'll go with anyone that's, because this is what I'm finding all the time in talking to the Zoomers, like the younger generation, is they don't have grit, and they're and I'm like, they're so involved with processing collective trauma in a lot of ways, and like accentuating their own traumas and creating this like really well developed like self-care awareness. And I think there's I'm trying to see the positive in that, and I obviously am having some trouble with it, but I do get that. I do get that like they're teaching the rest of culture, because I always believe like the younger generation has their own inherent intelligence. That's part of how evolution's moving forward, and how like in yogic language, pulsation, like things swing from opposites. So it's like if we're so callous, like we're going to find like hypersensitivity on the other side. And so there's that. Right. But then the pendulum has to swing back again for balance. And what I keep seeing is it's like they don't have there's a lot of like underdeveloped decision-making structures that involve that actually doing hard things in the short term is what makes us stronger in the long term. Like there's that miss to me, that piece. So it seems like you and I both have like a high dose of, if it's going to be hard, but what else am I going to do kind of thing.
Yeah. That's my motto. I guess I just expect it to be a little hard and, quite a bit. And it's what I know.
Yeah. Well, and like, I mean, like Elon talks about eating glass. It's like there's some level of when you have a small business that you've got to be able to ride the changes in the marketplace. And right now the biggest change is AI. And it's like we have seen nothing yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So how are you using AI to rebuild your company? Let's dive in there next.
Well, I want to give you a little caveat before I go into that, because there's this awareness I've been having just of late. And I think it's important to say that before I talk about what I've built. And and what I've realized I've built in the AI operating system is kind of a living embodiment of my brain. And it's given me this perspective on my own behavior, my skill set, my legging skill set, in a way I could never have even thought to design something, never have asked for that kind of insight And I'm just unpacking it. And I say that because it's pretty messy, Kate.
Yeah.
It's pretty messy. And because I'm such a okay, I'm all in. I am all in. And I just started building, and it's me. I have nobody else that is doing is creating any of those systems. I have a part-time business manager who will be back full-time, who is a huge, she's phenomenal, but is not AI centric, is willing to be, but I have to teach her, which means I have to learn before I can do that.
Totally. I keep running into this too. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
Yeah. And my team's not picking it up. They're not picking up the constraints around data sets, around we need to control data, and our data keeps changing. And so then we need to update the data set, which we can't. We already talked about that issue 24 hours ago, and then we decided on this, but now the data needs to change for what we're working on today. Yeah. And it seems like there's not that much. I've been looking on YouTube on Claude team, and there's just not a lot of information. There's a lot of company of one, because in company of one, you're not sharing data. It's easier right now in a lot of ways to just work with company of one within the and shout out to my friend Paul Jarvis who wrote the book Company One, and just that whole concept of how much you can do as a single human, agentified through all these AI agents. And that seems to be easier now than having a small team that's trying to use AI together. And I get that, I'm guessing bigger companies have their own issues. So I really only have the perspective of me plus 4 to 5 full time, right? And just us trying to figure it out has been what you're just saying, which is you've got to lead the way.
You have to.
So to me, that's part of that whole grit of neuroplasticity, because this stuff it requires my full concentration to learn.
Yeah. And that's part of my gap is I focus, and I have some health issues that cause neuroinflammation. And so my thinking gets really compromised. My ability to be on screen is limited. I don't necessarily abide by that, but you can see the impact in my output for sure when I'm operating at a less capacity or lower capacity. And I can't to even have a team of 4 that I was trying to create this with sounds really challenging, Kate. I can barely keep track of what I'm creating, and then the data sets you're talking about. And then if everybody isn't communicating the right way, the same way, with the same language, 2 weeks later, you could discover something you didn't even know was crawling around in there, screwing up the numbers.
Yeah.
And you've made how many decisions based on that in the meantime?
Right. Totally. Yep. I'd say that's really the core, to me, that's part of the core issue. So what have you effectively been building that you're wow, this is really cool, and this is why I'm not doing it the old way, the analog way, the Luddite way, the human without AI way?
Well, so many things I've had to learn, like how to build a funnel, how to create content.
Now you have to market direct to consumer. Yeah.
So
that's a ball game, isn't it? That's
Kate. I pretty much am okay, that's how Vantage has been huge for me on that. Just getting ideas, and then I run with it. And I built a video editor that does long and short form video.
And what app did you use?
Claude Cowork and Code. Claude Cowork and Code I used to build that.
Okay, so for those who are oh, that sounds scary. Cowork and Code sounds scary. You're not a coach. You just told us you work with horses and people as a coach, and then you had to deal with figuring out government Medicaid contracts. So now we're going into engineering and coding, which is a totally different for a lot of people who are more wellness oriented. They identify as a non-engineer.
Yeah, I birthed one. I birthed an engineer, and I know nothing about nothing. I remember watching him study, and I'd look at his screen and I'd think, what in the world is that? I can't do. It's a totally different language, and never even wanted to participate in that. I would, to be honest, that ball game is not something I aspired to become an expert at. And in the face of desperation, I had to figure some stuff out really quick. And I think that's another asset that I possess, is my willingness to just try stuff. And Claude Code. I kept seeing people are literally, I would see people say, just talk to it. I'm like, all right, here we go. And I would start with Cowork, and I'd ask for some insight and some direction from Cowork, figure it out, ask a lot of questions. And then I had the prompt, created the prompt, brought it over. I did actually, the first time I used Claude Code, I used it in the terminal, which looking back, like, what was I doing there?
Let's talk about terminal. I was trying to explain this to my dad. My dad is an engineer. He was a software engineer.
Oh.
And yeah, that's helped me a lot. I mean, it really has.
I bet.
Part of my brain kind of makes sense, even though I'm all in like Ayurvedic medicine, ancient wisdom traditions, primal habits. Like, this is my intellectual property body of work. So I was telling him, I'm like, like actually using your hard drive, like using terminal and using your hard drive. I'm like, this whole group of people who have never opened terminal, didn't even know terminal existed, need to start like installing apps in terminal and doing cut and paste, prompts into terminal and start using actually their hard drive. Like to store files where we've all been cloud-based for the last.
Yeah. And where's my hard drive?
And where's the hard drive? And then now all of a sudden you can overwrite documents and you can totally fuck up your hard drive.
Yeah.
Right? And this is all part of the learning curve. Yeah. For those of us who are actually like leaning in and not just asking ChatGPT the weather, but like we're actually building. Yeah. Non-builders, non-engineers are now building this stuff. So talk about your experience.
It's crazy to build shit like that. And the oops that you create is like, oops, I deleted my curriculum folder. Oops. I didn't actually do that. No. Thank God. But that's the oops you're facing.
Some docs. Yeah. Oh. So what happened? How is that like just sort of like feeling into like terminal for you? Because for me, it's scary.
Oh, it was terrifying. And I've got I've got multi-screens and I've got my terminal open over here and I've got Cowork open over here. And I'm pretty much going back and forth, like screenshotting screenshotting code, because I don't know how to articulate what I'm seeing other than to verbalize it, which is silly. So I screenshot it, I bring it over. I'm like, is this what it's supposed to look like? And then I'd go back. Is this what it's supposed to look like? And one of the features that I build into all those builds is teach me as we go. So don't just tell me what is right or wrong. Tell me why. And typically I understand 20% of that. But if I keep doing that every time, and then it will start to make sense over time. I haven't necessarily hit that point yet, but it will.
Right. So there's this like, if you get it to teach you while you go, then you're learning on the go. And then as it's changing, because it's also changing all the time, like I guess Claude Cowork and Code they now have a cloud-based option as of yesterday. So by the time
I thought it was the 8th.
Or it's coming, right?
Oh, I'm so excited.
Open to some, right? So it's like some of this stuff, it's like we learn it and then it gets outdated immediately. And if we just waited a hot month, then we wouldn't have had to go through some of that learning curve. But my guess is that learning curve itself is teaching us how it's working, and that's changing how we're thinking, which means that we might be a little bit more sophisticated in our own engineering process with what we're trying to create in the like downstream from having an understanding a bit of how it works with computing, how it works with computers. Like what's
engineering? I mean, that is a little bit of what we're talking about here.
So with Cowork, were you mostly making web pages, you were making artifacts that you were then using in your marketing funnel to communicate now that you're not selling to federal and state, you're selling direct to collect, pay for fee services, mostly to families in their car problem, usually is trauma related and neurology related. Is that?
Yeah.
So where have the tools been most helpful to you? And it sounds like you're in Claude, I'm in Claude.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Claude is ChatGPT was where I started, and then I started to drift towards Claude, and then discovered what Cowork was, and then it was like, all bets were off once that happened. That was kind of like the thing I'd been looking for that I didn't quite understand what it was. I think probably one of the biggest builds I've made though is my financial operating system. That has been, because I had a CFO, I had a fractional CFO.
Yeah.
I had, bookkeeper, I had a team and they were gone. And I'm like,
do the things.
What do I do with that spread? And numbers are like, they do scare me. Like I have a hard time processing them. And so that was terrifying. And what actually happened is I went on to school, SKOL, Vantage, and someone had offered a CFO, an AI CFO. And I was like, did he read, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And I thought, well,
and
why
is
not?
It a Claude
and I
skill?
built it.
Was it like a skill you added into?
Yeah, it was a skill. Yep. I've completely moved. Like it's evolved. That was months ago. It's evolved. I've got several financial machines. Each of them does something different, and then they speak to each other. So it's really giving me a day-to-day look. It gives me a week look. Helps with projections. And then it's just doing all the accounting too, like the bookkeeping, not the accounting, but the bookkeeping. I have an accountant. I'm absolutely. There's a ton of checks and balances, and anything I build, I have to approve. So there's nothing happening in the background automated that I at least don't implicitly trust because I've checked it that many times, or that's the only reason it would be running like that.
So how are you using Cowork specifically? How do you start your day? How do you just go through how?
That's a great question. That's part of this recent evolution in the last month. I've probably done over, I think I asked Claude this morning, I'm like, how many builds have I created in the last month? It's like 50. And I'm like, whoa. And not all of them work. I mean, some of them I've trashed because they've evolved. A lot of them I created out of chaos. And actually, I think the way that I start my day, to answer your question, is I have a command prompt. I have a command, like an operations command. And so operations command, and this is built for my brain, is I open that up and that's my guardrail to stay organized. So I don't open other threads until I've told command I'm opening threads, because what I would do is I would overbuild, and then I would have like 8 threads going at a time, and they would be creating conflict in the background. And I was creating a mess for myself to clean up. And so command, I hate that word. I'm going to name him, her. I don't, non-gender yet, something else, but that is my command. I don't know yet. I just haven't anchored on that one. So that is the prompt. It opens up and it tells me what my top 3 to-do items are for the day. It gives me a rundown on my finances. It gives me an update on, how my funnel's operating. It integrates with my...
Let's just start there. Just to get that, so that's using connectors into your Cowork that's pulling data. So these are like MCP connectors that are pulling data from wherever it's stored. So it might be some stored in your financial app, like QuickBooks or Xero or something like that. Something stored in wherever your marketing funnel is. So like a CRM tool, like Go High Level or MailChimp or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Asana is our project management software. Asana is a big piece of the tech stack that we use.
So that's telling you this is what you need to do today.
Yep.
And then it's connected to your email. Like these are the people that need your attention via email or team with Slack. That these are the questions and how does that change? Like if you just look back to the old way to clearly where we're going. So there's, those of us who are diving in and being like, wow, it's actually going to be easier to get a lot of data, to be looking at the right thing. Like, how do I look at the right thing at the right time to help me do what it is that I'm trying to do in the world? So how has that changed with you using Claude Cowork and taking a hot minute and all of the pain and trial and error and like the miss data, whatever that is, like nonsense, the slop, right? And like working through that to make it work right.
Wait, what's the question?
Yeah. Is like your process with that. Like just describe. Because to get to here now.
The process, and I have created a lot of slop, and I've actually had several people in my circle in contents telling me, Sara, hey, listen, you got to check this out. And I don't think if someone knew how to identify those things, they wouldn't necessarily identify it. But that I can't have that from an integrity standpoint, I can't have that. And that is indicative of, I think, one of my behaviors that I'm trying to change, which is, nose to the grindstone and just produce and trying to get myself forward, and then quality of work suffers. And I started to feel the impact of that. And by quality of work, quality of the builds, quality of how all of the connectors are working, how all the conversations are happening between the automations or the agentic work. And And I really did a hard stop. I'm like, I have to stop, and I have to get a handle on what's going on. And that's why I built this command prompt. It's command agent, I suppose you would call it, because I had to create guardrails for myself. I had to create an organizational structure within my operating system, within myself, that really is conflictual to my like my natural behavior.
Yeah.
And so the amount of things I've had to change internally and externally is a little mind blowing. And I think I really had to get in there and roll around and get really dirty before I could understand the importance of having a really solid like SOP, I guess you would say, for how our AI work operates within the organization and how mine works, and how do I then create it so that as the team grows again, I can bring them on board with me and give them the space to learn and build on their own, but also not to the detriment of our company.
Yeah, don't break the system.
Don't break the system. No. And I in Fable Five, the model that we got Claude offered up. I took advantage of that time to a fault. I mean, I was hours and hours of building, but it was just incredible. It was incredible what was possible. And I think something about me too is I am a visionary. I am 100 miles ahead of where I am when I'm thinking about where I want to go in the future. And And I can feel myself kind of recreating old patterns that existed in the old business, where I don't want this business to take off and I'm holding on to the tailcoats. I want to be walking alongside it or just a little bit ahead of it so that I can be guiding that process and not die. I mean, and I kind of literally mean that. The stress of it, it's toxic, and I don't want to go back to that place as a business owner and as a leader.
Yeah.
Did I answer the question?
Yeah, you did. And it brings us up a lot of things, because it's like, this is really real. I mean, just the cancer rates are insanely high post-COVID, and a lot of it is stress induced with, how our bodies are trying to adapt, and we're those of us who are more and more online, like we already have all the data on sedentary lifestyle, which it's like the more you're plugged in, and it's like at some point you feel like the AI is overtaking your brain and your body. So like what you're explaining, it's not actually, to me, that dramatic. And to me, it's not cancer will kill you, but the treatments will, and all that. And I don't want to go super controversial on that. You guys can read it in Witch's Cancer Journal. But yeah, like it's real. So as you're building in Cowork, do you want to just describe how, like, you, like, just from a growth perspective, like, how is AI causing you to change and grow? Because what I'm hearing from what you're saying is, like, as a massive, like, creator, visionary type, like, where you're able to create a massive amount of, like, worlds and that, it's causing you to create, it's actually causing you to create your own constraints. And for those of you like us, that, because I'm also the same way, like, very visionary creator in my wealth dynamic. And this is very systems lord. Like, AI is causing us to get systems lord mechanic, which is a different part of the wealth dynamic. Those of you who don't know wealth dynamics, it's a personality test. It's really helpful to understand what's happening right now, because within culture, different phases of the economy, if we look, Silk roads across history, like, economies evolve with us, and certain economies and constraints teach us certain things. And right now, anyone who's more on the visionary creator, star, supporter side is needing to learn operating system, whether you're in terminal, whether in your Claude Code, Claude Cowork, and all the MCP connectors, like, you're learning APIs, like, we're learning a new those of us who are more non-technical are being forced to learn a language. It's causing us to grow a lot of neuroplasticity, which is helping us actually connect with the other half of these people that are actually, like, in my world, it's like you're either more in, like, the wellness, holistic, whole self, like, people who've done a lot of their own trauma work and understand neuroplasticity and understand personal health and microbiome and circadian, with engineers who are typically more numb and disconnected for the body, but really actually have a more intrinsic understanding of data sets and rules and constraints, and how to create a little mini universe inside, the creative potential of what you can do with technology.
Wow, that was well said. Yeah, that is my internal experience, is navigating that journey and really those aren't system design is not my wheelhouse. I'm like, blow the system up. that's question everything, break the rule. What are the rules? I need to know what the rules are so I can push them. And then what it takes to operate in that system and to do it with integrity and to do it well and safely. And safe, we could, define safe a lot of different ways in that sentence. And it requires me to do things I'm not adept at doing. They aren't my first impulse. It's not the thing that comes to me first. And one of them is slow down. I mean, if that isn't the statement that slaps me in the face just about everywhere I turn, it's it got louder in this realm. Because my impulse to just to grow and move and reach isn't whatever that outcome is not sustainable if I haven't got the systems inside to support it long term. And that is literally what I preach and teach to families. This program takes so long, and we don't give you fast results, and we're not changing your kid, and it takes practice to change behavior. You have to do something over and over in order for it to become the thing that you do naturally. And none of this is that. And none of it. And so it's another lesson. It's another opportunity to practice what I preach. And then I have to look at, well, what am I afraid of slowing down? And then that becomes this whole deep dive over here in terms of, looking at my history and where I come from and what motivates me, which I've done a lot of. And, it's just the onion that keeps on peeling. And thankfully, I love that. I love to learn about myself and how I operate so that I can shift that if that's what I want to do. And normalizing that so that it's not a character flaw, like finding things that are wrong isn't a character flaw. Actually, it's a fucking opportunity. And how, and that's what I take to the people I work with too, is like, mistakes are opportunities. It's just what you do with them and how you hold them. And so now in the AI world, there's some money involved in that too, that I have to be really mindful of. But in the human world, there's lives. So I think it carries a similar weight. And learning to be careful while also willing to be taking risks it's a fine balance.
Yeah. There's so much in like cleaning up language that I notice, it's because we can generate. So a lot of what I just heard in what you said is like, it's so easy to be hyper generative with AI, but then the slough, or like where the quality is in integrity with what it is that we're actually trying to do and create, like that's the big problem. So those of us who create a lot, like we run into that really quickly. And then we go back to like the swing of the pendulum back into like, need to tighten the system, need to tighten the rules, need to operate within tighter constraints, create within tighter constraints so that my outputs are better, whether it's a web page or an email campaign or an agent that runs a little mini system. Yeah. So now let's just, let's talk a little bit about how within the more socially conscious or wellness type circles, which we're both involved in from a therapeutic perspective, there's a lot of this sort of like AI shaming and this very black and white, to me, very underdeveloped understanding of how to use AI for your greater mission or purpose. And what I see is that rather than like doing like, and I'm not just talking about like writing an email campaign or like that, but like at a very deep systems level, what I see is, the internet gave everyone a place to be able to be seen and to be able to share. So like when I started my website in 2000 in San Francisco, I could just easily tell my clients, like, go there and there's more information. And you can sign, like go there and you can get my newest podcast or blog post, like these things that were, go there and you can get a tip sheet. Like these things that were there, I now had a place for me to send people something other than email. So an email, I would have to like upload the document. The document was there. The interview was there, right? And so that totally changed everything then. So that was 25, 26 years ago. For some of you, maybe a little longer, maybe up to 30 years ago, but not much more. A blip in the screen of human history. I listened to a lot of like historical biographies, and it's like how much the printing press changed it. Like when you really get that people were hand copying books, and that when they would, that there would be error. So there was no such thing as true duplication without interpretation and scribe notes. And then certain things would just get lost or burnt or crumpled because of weather and water. Right. And like misinformation could easily get folded into the next copy. So like the understanding like what the internet did for creators and giving us all who had individual freedoms because of your country, whatever country you're in, whatever freedoms you have, gave us a level of agency. And with agency comes expression, like truer expression. And now with AI, we've got the ability for people who don't really understand engineering to like literally manifest companies, manifest worlds, manifest positive change or negative change. And so those of us who are really driven, and I believe most humans are, to higher levels of consciousness and higher levels of inclusion, and those who want to, fight on that one, just like go read Spiral Dynamics and understand the work of integral enlightenment and all that, and just see like those who've really studied human development over time, because like that data is very well established and it has been for well over 100 years. Okay, so that said,
that was a mouthful.
Free qualifier there.
Thank you. I think that was good. Yeah.
So now we have more agency.
Yeah, we do.
So now, and if we have consciousness and wellness and inclusivity, right, we're able now to have this tool besides just exposure and trading information back and forth, where we can be more generative, where we can generate more effective solutions more quickly with AI. And so if those of us who are most driven that way, who have like a chunk of wisdom that needs to actually get more exposure and more traction, and now we have a tool that can give us that. And it causes us to go into what Sara just described, like the kind of neuroplasticity and the sort of like pushback of your natural personality dealing with the technology, like where you're going to have to overcome that. I don't like doing this. This isn't my nature, but it's it's like literally making me smarter and stronger.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So it's like, 100%. As that's happened, what I see in this sort of like AI shaming, sort of more like New York Times, NPR driven, like just environmental catastrophe, AI, anti-AI culture, is that those of us who are more conscious around wellness now even have another reason to not engage in our own growth with this new technology. To the point of like shaming other people who are using it.
Absolutely. That exists. Yeah. Yeah. And that comes from such a place of fear. And I think there's a place for fear. I think the question is, how much do we let it drive us and motivate us? Can we be connected to these things and still have the agency to make the decision about what I'm going to do with it? And I think I'm excited about where I'll be 6 months from now. I'm excited about the capacity I'm building, the skill sets I'm creating. I'm excited about what that means for the people I serve in the future too. Yeah. I'm so excited because it's going to create more opportunity for me to be more present and to be more collected. I had Claude go, actually it was Code, scrape my Google Drive and pull out every piece of curriculum I'd ever written, every presentation I'd ever given, every training document I had created, and start to collate my intellectual property. And it was like, holy shit. I mean, I can't imagine a world in which I could have taken the time to do that at such depth and with such a beautiful output that I can use, this catalog I can just pull from, put things together. And I think, in the AI shaming, I am not super public about this is a big step for me in my own community to be talking to you. And I haven't told a lot of people I'm here. And I want to, I'm on a podcast. Is it public?
Is it public?
Is there a link?
There will be.
There will be. And I'm ready. This was a calculated choice on my part. Your request and your ask, I'm like, I can't be me and not be honest about what I'm doing. My work is all about safety, literally. And if I am hiding something, that is going to come across in everything I do. And ultimately it will burn me. And it will break the trust that I'm building in my community. And I'm unwilling to continue that. And so will there be judgment? Is there judgment? Yes. Do I understand everything?
This is my point, is the judgment is largely coming from the uninformed.
Yes, it is. Yep.
And so when I did research on this with Perplexity, for those who don't know Perplexity, it's like every line that Perplexity gives you, it has to back up with a source so that you can check sources. So it's a great way to just see where data's coming from, see where information's coming from. And so it's like, well, what is really the impact here of people who are trying to, the AI shaming and people who are abstaining from AI, even though they're actually usually more conscious and could learn a lot, like could actually become a much greater source of good if they were more technologically integrated. They just would have more impact and they'd be more informed, right? And it was like versus the big companies. And it's like not even in the bucket. So it's like you can't save the planet. You can't fix the water cooling problem. Like, you can't do that from abstaining.
You can't. You absolutely cannot.
And the information stuffs I've seen from like New York Times and other sources where it's like, it's actually been completely misrepresented. So part of what I wonder is like, why are media outlets trying to actually suppress the more conscious, more wellness oriented people from actually engaging with AI? And to me, those are the bigger questions that if you're going to abstain, like you want to really ask yourself of like, who's telling you not to? How do you actually get some sort of objective sense? And unless you're asking perplexity, I had to go back and forth with perplexity for an hour before I got to the like, no, you're right. It totally doesn't matter because like what the bigger companies are doing is like on such a ginormous scale that your little tiny recycling over here isn't going to make any difference. Whereas if you use AI effectively for your cause, it could make a difference.
It could. It actually could.
To me, this is then where it kind of plays to the more socially conscious persons like, well, I actually don't want to put the time in to learn. It actually is hitting them right at that more of like midlife brain fog of like, it's not what I feel comfortable doing. I'd rather just go for a walk.
Yes. That was what you've just shared, really a lot. If that is a newer way to think about it, and it really, it feels good. And I started to think about all of the things that well-intended people abstain from.
Yeah.
In an effort to have an impact. And when in fact, coming from the inside and being knowledgeable is absolutely what gives you the power to have, it makes your voice louder.
Yeah. And your ability. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been just such a pleasure to meet someone that is on, has a very similar background in terms of like helping people with coaching, helping people evolve over time through depth work and is building an AI operating system, because I feel like the more of us that actually can talk about what we're doing, it'll help other people that are more in this sort of either shaming other people for using it or more of a black and white world. Just like start to ask the bigger questions.
Yeah. Be curious, ask the questions, and you can't really accurately assess it, I don't think, until you have some of that insight and experience. And I appreciate the opportunity to break my silence.
Out of the box. I have a history of being, I'd say, controversial and counterculture. So it's definitely a little easier. Like I did this whole expose on urine therapy for yogis. YouTube just pushed all this urine therapy, like all of like how humans use urine traffic towards us. And it was just like, it was kind of crazy and wild. But I'm like, nothing really gets weirder than urine therapy, really. So like,
definitely it's out there. Yeah.
AI shaming, I'm like, that's a lot easier. Totem pole.
Well, can I say something to that? Because also it's about who you surround yourself with. And I think that what you just said there, it became abundantly clear, like who you're surrounding yourself with makes such a big difference. And if you are creating a circle that is like-minded, which there's a lot to be said for that, you're also missing out on opportunities that are rich and far beyond what we could ever imagine. I mean, this world of AI and finding people that are AI forward and also conscious has opened the door for me and given me permission to, I think, make greater change and have bigger impact on the world overall, not just in my small circle. And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, me too. One last question. Where did you, like in learning how you wanted to use Claude Code versus Claude Cowork versus Claude Chat? And let me ask you, are you using Claude Team yet? Are you using it at the organization? Yeah. And like how to figure out like what you're doing, what were your best sources? Like where did you find the most useful?
Oh, wow. Wouldn't that be good to hear? I would love everybody's answer to that. Personally, I worked in Claude AI, like the chat where you just go into the browser, for a year. and didn't even try to explore Cowork. It was like, ooh, I don't know what that is. That is created projects and now I don't use any project, I mean, like just completely overwrote my operating system there. And Substack has been really helpful. There's a few people I follow on Substack that I have pulled into my wheelhouse to help me learn. Vantage, individuals in that community are really helpful. And once I started to learn to use the AI to help me to figure that stuff out, I became less dependent necessarily on all the other circles. And it's interesting too, because I think as a newbie, I can still consider myself as a very newbie in the AI world. Yeah. Where you get your information from is going to really dictate how competent you feel. Because I go into the Vantage world and I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And then I go out over here into this community that is a different kind of community, different demographic. And they're like, oh, what's Cowork? And I'm like, oh, let me tell you what Cowork is. So it's such a different, if I had gotten into Vantage a year ago, I probably would have bowed out. It probably would have intimidated me to a point I couldn't have integrated it into my world. And I just because of the level at which, it's operating and the systems are being built. And there is more way. There's so many ways to enter in. And I think my biggest suggestion is pick one. I think I got a little scattered in like, oh, this guy says this and this lady says this and this person. And just getting some understanding about the basics of, Claude AI, Claude Cowork, Claude Code. What do those three things do, and what do they mean, and what are they best? What's their best use case, and then just trying that, and that has been, I think, how I've operated. I didn't give you any specific sources. If you want specific sources, I could name them. Yeah, there's a guy named Ruben on Substack. I love his work. It is for the non-developer. He's this. Where is he from? He's one guy. He does this newsletter, and he's really human and down to earth. And it really speaks to me. And he's got a great community, and you can ask questions. And it's really a group of it's business people that are learning AI at a pretty base entry level place. And what's really funny about him is he's so willing to own too how quickly these things change. Because like a month ago, he was like talking about projects and how he was talking about context documents and how you need to have, how you need to hold your context documents. And then now he's like, none of that, don't do that, do this. And how you should use your connectors. And I appreciate that he is willing to own the learning and the evolution, because it normalizes that, because that's how it works. Yeah.
So Ruben Hasid.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
On Substack AI. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. He's great. Lenny's newsletter and Substack's really good. No, I didn't use YouTube.
So in Substack, are you mostly learning from like a text, like someone's like writing it and you're just following it? You're just following the writing. Okay. Yeah. Rather than watching a training video.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. That is interesting now that you say that. Yeah. There's been a few training videos that I've gotten access to. I can't slow myself. Either I have to watch the video or I have to do the work. I don't. Something about my learning process that doesn't work very well.
Yeah, totally. Okay, this is amazing. I want to talk more about like Cowork, Team Claude, but I know it's not relevant for the audience.
I would too.
But any sources on that of like where to figure out like how to use Cowork versus Code versus chat with a team?
Oh, a team.
I mean, I'm asking Claude, right? Like I'm just going straight from there. But I want to know how other companies, small, tiny companies, are doing that.
I'm asking Claude.
Yeah.
Honestly, that is... I'm asking Claude or individuals in Cowork usually.
Yeah.
Cowork is my, like, that's where I live. That's my jam. That's where I... spend a lot of time. Yeah.
And when you want to push information to the team, how do you do that?
Ooh, that I don't have any good. I'm still working on that, because no, I don't have anything I would offer as wisdom there.
Except
I have to have a handle.
That's where it's getting hard.
Well, and I've tried, I've tried to bring one of my team members up to speed on our finance machines, and because they're not finalized, I find myself lacking confidence in the training and the communication of it, and I don't want to operate that way. So I want to instill trust and faith and confidence in my team, and so I'm really not pushing out yet until I feel really confident with what I have. That is not how I've always operated. AI has really, in fact, funny story. I actually asked Cowork this morning. I'm like, I use Claude, Claud, as a voice recorder, and I brainstorming. I'm a verbal processor. I talk all the time. And so I just record myself talking. And then I analyze, I use those transcripts for lots of different things. And I've been verbalizing a lot about AI because it's just sort of consuming my world right now, because it's the thing that will make me money to make this business work. It will. If I can't imagine having to have created a funnel, and knowing what it is, or a meta ad, what? Like right now, Claude is helping me. Like I am not the leader. I am not the leader in that design, and I've got enough data sources that help me figure out, do quality check the work, but that is not a place that I feel confident at all. But I took these last week's worth of Claude recordings, and I asked Claude to analyze my behavior and what are thematically, what are the patterns that exist in these brainstorming sessions. And well, I'm an overgenerator, which that was no news to me. But the biggest takeaway, I got a little pissy because sometimes AI does offer some insight that is spot on. And I can just feel my heart rate going up. Just give me a second. It was really new. It was really good information. Is the checks and balances I think Claude actually said, like, I name everything. I identify everything, but I don't necessarily take the time to do the thing that's needed for whatever it is I identify. It doesn't matter what I'm identifying and then I'm moving. And
it's the quick start on the Kolbe index. It's like quick start versus follow through, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes, it is. It is. And not having any checks and balances for myself.
Yeah.
And so needing to create those internal and mostly for me right now, external checks and balances, because in that regard, I can talk myself out of anything and feel really confident about it.
I know, right? High in command. I had the same conversation with my team this morning. I'm like, we need this it's just around events and bonuses for members. And we run on ARR, annual recurring revenue memberships. And I'm like, the problem is like a member will come to me with a unique case and I'll break the policy. Like,
yes.
The point of the policy is so that we have a policy and you guys uphold the policy and I refer everyone to you. And you're able to generate so that we get me out of these
Kate,
special exemption conversations where I essentially keep changing the policy.
Yes.
Oh, can we set this in stone and say at least for the next 12 months we will run this policy unless something catastrophic happens by the definitions of this being a catastrophe. And then it's you guys' job to uphold. There's a really good word for it in my background's Ayurvedic medicine, and the way that the body is healthy is that the tissues uphold their own integrity. So there's that word uphold is dhatu. It's also part of the dharma, that you uphold your own personal mission, which means you don't run over. Like, I don't need to save the world from this because I'm just working over here in this little part of this is my personal mission, this little subsector over here where I can actually affect change. Right? So it's like, uphold the policy, uphold the quality, uphold the mission.
Stay true.
More specific on that. It sounds like that's the feedback that you got. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So do you think
you named it, Cate? That is it. Yes.
I got to this place pretty early in my career where I was like, because I was on like an enlightenment, like literally enlightenment path, like just studying enlightenment with enlightenment masters who are it's like taking enlightenment masterminds and that after I got a certain place of Ayurvedic medicine and yoga, that's where I went. And in that, there's this sense of business for me then became my path to enlightenment because it was teaching me the hardest lessons, right? It was like, you want to learn about ego, go have a high ticket item that you understand the value and face rejection when people are perfect fit. And you'll start to understand like where your ego is afraid to get or create 20 videos on urine therapy so that people understand the history of Shivambu from all different countries and
deal with rejection.
Yeah, totally. Like deal with other people's disgust or whatnot.
Oh.
True, like upholding truth, uphold dharma, to uphold the truth path. So now what I'm seeing is like AI, there's this level where if you're integrating your operating system into an AI operating system, that's now going to allow, because you and I are having a ton of ahas. And I would say we're probably some of, you know, a very small subsector of people that are trying to build this AI operating system that come from a background of high level consciousness and wellness, like wellness for the planet, wellness for the people, wellness for the plants and the mammals and the insects and the microbes and all the things that make life. Right. And it's like AI is teaching us some like hard smackdown lessons about our personality right now.
Yes. I am so excited to, can we just keep going? That is so it. It is so it. I can't, like, what I've learned about myself as a leader, just as in leadership as a business owner is, I'm committed. I'm like a personal work junkie, like I want to learn the modality. I want to embody the modality. And then I want to bring that modality out there, whatever sky's the limit. And my brain went just blank right there because that's what happens to me. I get so excited. My brain goes blank.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second, Cate. It's not good on a podcast.
We have an editor.
Oh, that's right. We have an editor. Okay. Can you help me back?
Yeah. Just like AI as a path of enlightenment, because it's like, if you're somebody who's just like an overgenerator, say, right. And it'll show you that, like what you're generating isn't actually what you want. And then it'll bring us like people like you and I back to like, policies. Constraints. Now how do I communicate this constraint in this new system, which is living somewhere on the cloud because my terminal has to communicate with their terminal. I mean, and largely this will be like maybe a different conversation in 2 weeks when Cowork is on his web.
It will be different.
Right. And it'll be different. And then that's part of the adaptability.
It is.
It's like those of us who are generating in this world are like, it just changed again. It just changed again. Okay. Change is the norm. Right. Said every monk ever. Changes the norm.
Yep.
So instead of being like so fixed, right? And now
fluid.
we're back.
You've got to be fluid.
Grit, fluid, adaptable, and constrained and communicable. Like that
and accountable. It's so true. And I think your statement about changing, changing policy, because I can change policy and I will. I will. Well, that is not a good way to lead a team at all.
Or members.
No. That's totally. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then the humility, like the humility that is involved and the ability to like get over yourself and just keep going. And the amount of opportunity I've had to practice that of, wow, I didn't know I was doing that. And, I can see now the damage I've done or the impact I was not intending has now happened. And how do I correct that? And I think what I've done with AI is I've asked it to, this is another personal awareness, is I've asked it to compensate for my lagging skills versus building those skills and then using it from that skill perspective. I'm asking it. I know where I struggle. I'll come to Claude and I'll be like, what was I working on today? I should not be having to ask that question. What is happening inside me that I can't track my own work to a certain degree? I need
context switch, right?
Yeah. That is it. Yes. Yes.
And that's what it's requiring us to. No, but I mean, this is the case in point is, I mean, we've been teaching for over a decade, probably 15 years, like focus blocks, buffer blocks, right? Focus days, buffer days. And now it's going to be like focus weeks because for us to really figure stuff out, we can't just pop over here to the meeting or pop over there to the coaching session and pop over there to the partnership conversation and then jump back into Claude and generate the next artifact. It's saying like, no, saying no. And to me, this is like, wow, if we really understand that AI is helping us do deep focus work, like those of us who are really trying to get in it and know that like, I just need time block and days is better than hours, because hours I'm going to
Days.
get so far and then I'm going to stop, and then to pick up that thread again, I can't just jump in and answer. It's not like jumping in and answering an email. It's not like answering a quick team member question.
Mm-mm.
It's like, no, it's going to take me at least a half an hour to understand where we were
At
at.
minimum. At minimum, it's going to take it. And it occurs to me, like, for your listeners, like, we're talking about really in-depth AI work. Like, not all AI work does not take that level of focus and time. And the systems that drive the kind of work that people use do. And to do it well, I have like these, multiple monitors when I'm working, and I would have Cowork up. I would have, multiple browsers, and then I would be working 4 threads at a time. And that was out of the desperation, that was out of like, I have to do this. Like we don't have any money. We need money.
Yeah.
And, and also recognizing that operating like that doesn't make me more money, because I'm going to have to clean up the mess I created.
Yeah.
And so being able to catch myself in it and to stop is, and I was talking to Claude this morning, and it was talking about the break, and it actually asked if there was an external break I could use. It mentioned my husband, my business manager, and I braced. I'm like, well, nobody's going to tell me what. No. And then, I turned into that person. Oh, control freak. Yes, that's me. And I'm like, well, shit, I have to make a choice. Like, I need that accountability. I don't want that accountability. Got something to think about there.
Mm-hmm.
How much do I want this business? How much do I want to do this work? How much do I want to serve people? A lot.
Yeah.
I want to do that a lot.
And it'll just circle right. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is it'll just, and I think that's what's happening with, because there is that like oversaturation with the, with machine learning, with like us learning with the machines, with us learning with tools and the kind of neural, and then you get to the point of like, oh my gosh, my nervous system, it does I do need to take myself for a walk. I do need, and this is when I kind of keep landing at, and I'll try to release a members conversation that we did on primal and AI. So I authored a book called Primal Habits, which are like, what are the habits that caused humans, they caused humans to evolve into all the amazing things that we can do that are a bit different than other species. Like, what specifically are those habits? And that's on Amazon. That's a book called Primal Habits. And so because I have in my membership a group of people practicing primal habits, and we're doing it in this age of exploding AI, it's like, well, how do primal habits tie into the age of AI? And in my experience, it's like, they are the habits that like quickly take that, it's almost like that caffeinated edge off, that like your brain's been too much in the machines, and now it just needs to be completely back in nature, right? And it has to like renature our entire physiology, like our biochemistry. And so there's this polarity. So the further we go into using the technology, the further we're going to need to go in primal in order to have that swing of the pendulum. And that actually gives me a lot of hope. And we see this happening where like biohacker habits, which a lot of which are very primal, like fasting shows up in biohacker communities. Cryotherapy shows up in biohacker community. Like, there's a lot of these habits of like deep nutrition or phytonutrients, microbiome diet. Like, there's a lot more of that. Like, I can use the machine so much because I'm so balanced in these other ways as a requirement. Otherwise, natural selection.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the ability to recognize when you're out of balance, and then having what it takes to course correct.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sara Sherman, for having this conversation about conscious and wellness people using AI and the shaming, how to navigate the shaming, how to engage in the technology, how to dive in and start. It's just been an absolute pleasure. And for those who want to know Sara Sherman's website, it's dandelion-family.com. We just had a live event, and I had I had created these t-shirts 15 years ago that were dandelions are the new kale. And so my members want them reprinted. When we reprint them, I will send you a dandelion t-shirt.
I would love that. That would be great. Thank you. That would be fantastic.
And then I'm going to print a new one that's thistle is the new dandelion, because I'm trying to bring people even edgier into the plants that want to rewild us through high.
This was a good one. I got a lot of it on my farm if you're looking to cultivate some.
Right.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
Anything you want to leave people with?
I I will say that, if you do go to my website, it is literally just a sales page. My website, we completely rebranded in 2025. We were Discovery Horse, and then we rebranded to Dandelion because the name horse is so limiting in terms of how people perceive our business. And in doing so, in the rebranding, we did our website, which was all Medicaid focused. It was so I had to rip it down, and I've got one page, and that's all you know about me. You don't know anything else. I am, social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all those. But yeah, just stay tuned. There'll be a full website that AI will build here shortly.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Cate.